Tayson, can you do this, brother? It's a 1v1 situation in the Victory Royale. Cheel here. He doesn't know. Oh my goodness.
Tayson, Nayte, and 4zr won their heat in an incredible fashion, winning 2 out of 6 games, and one of those having 22 eliminations. This team has had its fair share of ups and downs and tragedies, however. Let's cast our mind back to Chapter 2, Season 4. At this time, Nayte and 4zr were teaming with Kezix, another French-speaking player. Now, they actually won Qualifier 1 and Qualifier 2, and at this point there was money still in the qualifiers, so they definitely made a little bag. After winning 2 qualifiers in a row, there was no doubt in many people's minds, including my own, that this was an absolute top team coming into this season's FNCS, and they absolutely had a huge shot at winning the FNCS Championship in this season. Nayte had already won an FNCS Championship before in Chapter 2 Season 2, being duos with Andalex, so there's already proof that these guys could win. However, Qualifier 3 comes around, and they actually failed to get past the Opens stage of this, and didn't even make it through to the second round. Obviously, the team was a little bit distraught after this, as again, there was money in the qualifiers, and they were clearly in the running to make good amount of money from this week, but just didn't perform. To add insult to the injury, Fortnite Competitive tweeted their plays of the week from the previous week when they had won right after they had failed to qualify. Just some bad timing, unfortunately. However, this doesn't stop them on their qualification because they'd already gained enough series points to go through to the semi-finals anyway. But again, this is where things got difficult because they had 4 game crashes out of the 12 games in their heats. Now, when you look back at the match history, they weren't actually capitalizing on the other games that they had anyway, like they did in the other qualifiers. So something was definitely up a little bit with their gameplay generally. The crashes, yes, were bad. However, let's be real, they weren't playing to their best. This was shocking because, like I mentioned, these guys were my favorites to win the entire tournament, and they didn't manage to make it through to the finals. Now, obviously, this was only 2 members of the current trio that we're focusing on here today, but we all know what happened to Tayson. He won that season with Mongrel and Mitro. But again, that didn't work out due to personality issues and the fact that they weren't grinding the game properly. So the next season rolls around, and Tayson then teams with iDrop and Mr. Savage. They messed around during the weekly qualifiers, but they made every single round 4. When it came to finals, these guys placed 8th, which is a really good placement for the majority of people, but for Tayson, he was looking for a 3 times FNCS Championship in a row as he'd won the previous 2 seasons, and potentially the pressure was just too much, and this probably was a bit of a letdown for him personally. This team also disbanded due to there being some chemistry issues between Tayson and iDrop. For this season for Nayte 4zr and Kezix, however, wasn't exactly what it looked up to be the previous season. First qualifier, rather than winning it, they ended up placing 34th in the round 3, which meant that they just missed out on making it to round 4 by a single placement. The next week qualifier, they placed 8th, which was really good, and again, remember in this season, if you placed top 8, you were instantly through to the semi-finals and you couldn't play any further weeks, so we didn't see them in week 3. However, this is where the true issues start. These heats were 6 games only, and Orange, the internet provider in France, stopped working for 3 of the 6 games, meaning that 4zr had to play as a solo for half of the games. Due to these extenuating circumstances out of his control, they didn't manage to get a top 8 this day, and again did not make it to the finals. They did have 1 single game to win during the reboot round, but unfortunately didn't make it. So Season 6 starts, and the main talk on the town is who is Tayson going to be trioing with, because we knew that he had split from iDrop and Savage. Then, a tweet arises. Tayson, Nayte, and 4zr. The God Trio. Tayson's incredible IGLing ability, when combined with Nayte and 4zr's incredible teamwork and fighting skills and incredible low ground playstyle, this is a scary trio. The first third-party tournament arose, and it was the Solary Cup, where they placed 2nd. They then won the Trios Cash Cup, and in that same week won the Trio Cash Cup Extra by DreamHack. The next week they placed 8th and 9th in the same event. So coming into FNCS Qualifier 1, these guys looked incredibly strong, and this really was almost an all-star trio team, so the expectations were again set extremely high. But coming into the first qualifier, they placed 14th, and then in Qualifier 2, 15th. Qualifier 3 then placing 54th, and they didn't even manage to make the 4th round. They were still at this period placing relatively well in the Trio Cash Cups, But again, this was not the all-star team that we were thinking of. They potentially just had a honeymoon period where they started to trio together, it seemed to go well, but then realistically it wasn't performing out that well when it came to the highest quality of games in these custom style lobbies. So many, like myself, had thought potentially this was a team that could make it to finals and just do okay. Semis rolls around and in their heat, the first game starts and they pick up an incredible win from the low ground, which is extremely rare to see to start with. This team seemed cohesive. They had a different game plan and strategy. They were playing low ground, something we're really used to seeing them play, in particular at Nayte 4zr, all the way back in that season 4 when they won the first 2 qualifiers. They had figured out their storm surge strategy and they were just popping off, and included in game 3 winning the next game again with a huge 22 eliminations. They'd made vital changes to their game plan over the course of the FNCS, attempting to play high ground like many of the other teams thought they needed to. However, coming into the heats, they resorted back to their classic playstyle of playing low and low to mid ground and were absolutely dominating in this playstyle. There were 3 more games left. 2 of these they didn't perform too well, having issues with storm surge. However, it did not matter. Their first 3 games and their final games were enough points to put them so far above in first on the leaderboards, taking home the first place in the semi-finals in their heat. After not qualifying through in season 4 and season 5 for both Nayte and 4zr when they clearly were a top team, and then having a ton of trouble, lots of potential and ups and downs this season, this was a huge turning point for the team. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Peace.